They buried my brother in the red clay soil behind St. Elias Chapel, but they never found his heart. The coroner blamed a bear. Locals whispered the Dogman. I thought I was ready to bury the rumors too. But then I found his journal, and I heard the howling for myself. I hadn't seen the Appalachian sky in 10 years, not since I left the town of Ash Pine tucked between the black ridges and pine-tangled veins of the Blue Ridge Mountains. But grief calls louder than memory, and guilt louder still. When they said Danny had been found dead near Bear Hollow Ridge, throat torn out, chest ripped open, I packed my guide gear and came home. Ash Pine hadn't changed much. The same gas station with the faded Coke sign. The same rusted-out pickup trucks leaning tired against crooked porches. But there was something different in the air, heavier, like the mountain was holding its breath. The old folks called it the Dogman, a creature of half-man, half-beast, born of native blood and old revenge. Said it walked upright, with fur black as cave walls and eyes like burning pine resin. They said it was older than the settlers, older than the scars of war carved through these trees. A protector, twisted by betrayal into something savage, something that hunted the living and remembered every name carved into its stolen land. I used to laugh at those stories until I saw the crime scene. Danny's body wasn't just mauled, it was arranged, his limbs splayed like he'd been sacrificed. No claw marks on the rocks, no animal tracks, just bare footprints. Human and then canine, side by side. I stayed in the old family cabin by Moonteeth Creek. We grew up there, hunting frogs and skipping stones before the silence came between us, before he started seeing things, hearing things, drawing them. The night I arrived, I found his old leather journal on the porch. It was soaked in pine needles and dried blood. First page, a single line scrawled in shaking ink. It's not just a story, Owen, it's waiting for us to forget. Then came sketches, hundreds. A beast with the body of a man and the face of a snarling dog. Long limbs twisted like branches. In wind, a mouth filled with cracked human teeth. One page was just a charcoal smudge with two blazing amber eyes scratched over and over again, until the paper tore. I tried to sleep, but the wind sounded like it was breathing, whistling through the trees, then stopping. Watching. The forest outside the cabin shifted in ways it shouldn't. A branch snapping just once, footsteps where no feet should tread, and always, always the sense of something just out of sight. This isn't just a tale whispered by old men in rocking chairs or carved into the bark of cursed trees. This is the tale of the Dogman of the Appalachian Mountains. The werewolf story they tried to bury beneath folklore and fog, and now, it's clawing its way back. If you're still here, leave your mark. Scratch a comment below before the next howl finds you. Like, subscribe, or look away. But know this, the Dogman watches those who listen. The next morning I hiked out to Bear Hollow Ridge. The trail hadn't seen boots in weeks. Moss crept up the wooden mile markers and something had clawed long gouges through the lower trunks of the trees. Not deep enough to topple them, just enough to mark a boundary, like a warning. I remember the smell first, a coppery, wet stench that clung to the bark like rot. Beneath it, the faint sweetness of crushed pine, and something stranger, like burnt fur. Crows watched me in silence from the crooked branches above. They didn't caw, just stared. I'd tracked black bears through snowstorms, led tourists through flooded ravines, but nothing in my years of wilderness guiding prepared me for how wrong this place felt, like the forest itself didn't want me there. At the ridge's peak, I found what they left behind. Danny's camp. His tent was shredded, not collapsed, ripped open from the inside. A torn sleeping bag lay curled like an empty skin. Next to it, his compass and split in half. No blood, no drag marks, just a circle of flattened grass and in the middle, one massive paw print, upright. 5 claws, no pad, human-shaped. That night I asked around the bar in town. Old-timers sipped their brown liquor and said nothing. But one woman, hunched, wiry hair like smoke, pulled me aside. "You're Owen, ain't you? Danny's blood." Her voice cracked like splintered bark. I nodded. He said it was coming for him. Said he saw it watching from the ridge, said it was wearing his own face some nights. She tapped her temple. Not in the mirror, in the dreams. "What did he see?" I asked. Her eyes narrowed, her voice a whisper. The Dogman don't just kill, it remembers. Picks the ones with old blood, the ones whose kin stole the land or spilled it. It follows the line. You feel it yet? I didn't answer, but I had. The dream started that night. I was running barefoot through the trees, heart pounding, breath heaving. Something behind me howled. No, not behind, within. My hands were wrong, long, twisted, fur between my fingers. I dropped to all fours and howled back. Then I'd wake, nails torn, feet filthy with pine tar, the smell of wet dog thick in my nose. Back at the cabin, I dug deeper into Danny's journal. One passage stood out. They think it comes from the woods, but it comes through us. Every time we try to leave, it follows. Every time we forget, it waits. That line sat with me like a stone in the throat. Something was building, not just stories. A presence. Over the next few days I caught glimpses and a shape just beyond the tree line, tall and hunched, always gone before I could focus. I found claw marks on my truck hood. My trail cams, smashed. But the strangest moment came at dusk. I was sitting on the cabin porch, watching the tree line breathe, when I heard it. A long, low growl, not animal, not quite human, rising from the woods like a warning, and then a whisper, barely audible. Owen. This wasn't just a creature, it knew my name. I stopped sleeping, not by choice. Sleep stopped coming for me. Every time I closed my eyes, I was somewhere else, running, chasing, howling, and I could feel the thing in my chest pulsing, alive, like a second heart. On the fourth night, I woke with my mouth full of mud. I had sprinted barefoot through the forest in the dark. When I stumbled back to the cabin, I found my feet bloodied, skin under my nails, sap in my mouth like I had bitten bark, and something else. A single severed deer antler resting at my doorstep lay gently, like a gift, or a warning. Danny's journal pages had turned frantic near the end. Smudged ink, torn edges. He kept repeating the same symbols over and over. Crude shapes like fangs or mountains, circles of clawed feet. Beside them, one phrase in bold red marker: "Do not answer the howl." But I had already heard it, and part of me wanted to answer. The townsfolk started noticing me, not just watching but avoiding. I passed the diner and conversations died. Sheriff Garland pulled me aside one morning as I was buying coffee. "You look like hell, Owen," he said, then leaned in. "You see it yet?" I didn't answer. He nodded slowly, then whispered, "Your grandfather saw it too. Didn't talk much about it, but I remember when I was a kid. Woke up screaming. Said it had his eyes, that it followed him into his dreams." He handed me an old rust-stained hunting tag. I turned it over and froze. On the back was carved the same symbol Danny had drawn, a 5-pointed star made of interlocked claws. It wasn't a tag, it was a sigil. Some families, the sheriff muttered, are just closer to it. Don't know why, but it remembers, especially the ones who tried to bury it. That night I dug through my grandfather's trunk in the attic. What I found shattered the last thread of logic I'd been clinging to. An old black and white photo. My grandfather, blood on his chest, kneeling before a stone altar deep in the woods. Standing behind him, a tall, blurred shape, too large to be human. The face scratched out violently with a knife. Next to it, a torn letter. "It lives in the land, in the old places. They fed it once. We were supposed to keep it asleep, but the line broke. Now it wants us." The blood woke it. Then I found the map, a hand-drawn outline of the forest trails, with one place circled in red. Ridge Spine Hollow. "Don't go alone." The wind howled that night, long, mournful, layered with something almost musical. I howled back. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't me anymore. The next morning I found fresh claw prints circling the cabin. They hadn't broken the door, just walked around again and again, watching. The trees were closer than I remembered. The mountain didn't just feel haunted, it felt alive, and it wanted something. I was changing. I saw it in the mirror, eyes darker, hands rougher. Sometimes my teeth ached like they were growing, shifting. Sometimes when I looked into my reflection, I didn't see my face, I saw Danny's. Then, for the briefest flash, I saw the Dogman's amber eyes, human mouth, fur, like smoke, and it was smiling. The next morning, I took my hunting knife, Danny's journal, and the map. I was going to Ridge Spine Hollow, not to find the Dogman, but to remember what I'd forgotten. The hike to Ridge Spine Hollow took 3 hours. I didn't see a single animal along the way. No birdsong, no insects. Just the constant creak of ancient trees swaying as if whispering old names through hollow lungs. Danny's map was soaked in. My sweat by the time I reached the hollow. A natural bowl carved into the mountainside, ringed by pine so thick it blocked the sun. In the center stood a stone altar, jagged and moss-covered like a piece of the earth that had grown teeth. I knew this place, not from stories, not from the journal, from dreams. The altar was cracked down the middle, a black ichor dried along the seam like something had split out of it. Around it, half-buried bones littered the moss. Animal, I thought at first, but then I saw the fingers. Human. Next to the altar sat an old tin box, rusted shut. I pried it open with my knife. Inside were scraps of torn paper, a coil of braided fur, and a family photo I'd never seen. My grandfather, younger, face twisted in rage, holding a newborn in one arm, scrawled across the back in the same hand as the old letter. The Dogman is not a beast. It is a memory made flesh. A curse passed by blood and silence. The first son always inherits the howl. I fell to my knees. Danny hadn't been marked by chance, he'd been chosen as the eldest. But he wasn't the eldest anymore. I was. And I had returned. That's what it wanted. That's why it whispered my name. The Dogman wasn't hunting me. It was calling me home. Then I heard it. That low, guttural growl, not from the trees, but from inside me. My fingers curled. My back spasmed. My skin rippled. I dropped to my hands and knees, vomiting mud and black hair. My vision blurred, sharpening along the edges. I could hear every leaf twitch, smell every rot and rust of the earth. The Dogman wasn't coming. It was waking up inside me. I don't know how long I was there, but when I came to, the altar was gone. Just dirt, no bones, no box. Had it been real, or was it part of the inheritance? That night I returned to the cabin, changed. I could feel it moving beneath my skin, the remembering. I looked in the mirror, and for a moment I saw 3 faces. Behind me, Danny, my grandfather, and the Dogman, all me. There was one last note in the journal, torn at the edge. It read, "If you're still reading this, it's already found you. Mark this, like, share, before you forget your name too." I stopped going into town. I think I knew what they'd see in me, what I couldn't unsee in the mirror. My pupils stayed dilated now, even in sunlight. I heard the wind like it had a voice, like it was calling out through teeth. And sometimes, when I closed my eyes, I saw through something else's. I felt hunger I couldn't explain. Not for food, but for movement, for blood, for the feeling of running through the dark and ripping something warm from its hiding place. I nailed the cabin windows shut. I carved salt lines along the door frames, but none of it mattered. Not against something already inside me. The nightmares weren't nightmares anymore. They were memories. I remembered being on all fours. I remembered the taste of fur in my mouth. I remembered standing upright, naked under the full moon, watching the town from the tree line. And worst of all, I remembered enjoying it. I tried to end it, took the rifle out back one morning and pressed it under my jaw. The click echoed, but there was no shot. The bullets were gone. Instead, I found a message scratched into the wooden stock in my own handwriting. "The forest doesn't let you die. It lets you change." I screamed until my throat went raw, but the woods didn't echo me. They absorbed it. That night, it took full control. My skin split in places, not blood, but something thicker, darker oozed through. My jaw ached until I felt the bones grinding into new shape. My teeth felt crowded. I dropped to the floor in agony, but my body rose anyway, like something else was wearing me from the inside out. And then, I ran. I crashed through the door into the forest faster than I'd ever moved. Branches shredded my shirt. Rocks cut into my soles. But I didn't bleed. I didn't stop. I didn't feel human anymore. and in the moonlight I saw them. Other shapes, tall, lean, dog-faced, amber-eyed, watching from between the trees. They didn't speak, but they didn't need to. They recognized me, and I realized I wasn't alone in this. The Dogman wasn't a single creature. It was a lineage, a tribe, the cursed sons of the mountain. I woke up naked at the base of Bear Hollow Ridge, my skin scraped, my mouth filled with pine needles and blood. Not mine, not animal, something bigger. In my hand, clenched so tight my nails dug through the palm, was a sheriff's badge, Sheriff Garland's. I never saw him again. Back at the cabin, Danny's journal had one last entry I hadn't seen before. The ink was fresh. You're almost there, Owen. One more howl, then we remember everything. But I didn't write it. I wasn't afraid of the Dogman anymore. I was afraid of what I'd do when I finally became him. The full moon rose like a lantern of blood behind the ridge. It didn't feel metaphorical anymore. It felt ritualistic, like the sky itself had cracked open just for me. That night, the forest wasn't quiet. It was waiting. I stood at the edge of Ridge Spine Hollow again, my hands trembling, the air electric with rot and memory. I was barefoot, shirtless, marked in scars I didn't remember earning. But they belonged to me. I understood that now. I wasn't returning to the woods. I was coming home. Across the hollow, 6 figures stepped out from the pines, tall, bent, covered in hair that shimmered like smoke. Their faces were not quite wolves, not quite men, but something worse. Something older. Teeth too human, eyes too knowing. They circled in silence, forming a ring around the altar. I stepped forward. No fear, no hesitation. I knew what I was. One of them, the largest, raised a clawed hand and placed it on my chest. Its eyes locked into mine, and for a split second I saw his memory. No, ours. A village burning, screams, blood in the soil. A man hunted by his own people for worshipping a spirit in the trees. That man, marked by ritual, became them, became me. The first Dogman. It wasn't a creature. It was a curse of memory. A grief too deep to die, a vengeance passed through generations. The Dogman wasn't born, he was inherited. Then the pain returned, no longer resisted, but welcomed. My back snapped first, spine twisting upright, ribs pushing out like something inside wanted room. My skin split like old cloth, black fur weaving through the tears. My face stretched, lips peeling back as bone cracked and reformed. My scream turned to a howl before it left my throat. They howled with me. The forest answered. I collapsed forward, onto all fours, not weak but reborn. I was taller now, stronger, vision clearer, smell sharper. Every heartbeat of every creature within a mile rang through my skull like drum beats. I ran, fast, unnatural. I didn't move through the woods, I devoured them. Trees bent around me, rocks split beneath my claws. No trail, no hesitation. A car broke the silence, headlights slicing through the trees from the distant road. Humans, tourists, intruders. I lunged, but before I reached them, I saw myself reflected in their windshield, teeth bared, eyes burning, fur drenched in dew and old. Blood, they screamed. The car spun. I stopped. For just a second, I saw Danny again, standing in the tree line behind them. Not angry, not afraid, just waiting. I turned and vanished into the trees. I didn't kill them. Not that night, because I remembered something Danny once whispered when we were kids chasing shadows with flashlights. It's not the monster that kills you, Owen, it's what it leaves behind. I became a ghost in the Appalachians. Sometimes hikers report sightings. A tall figure on 2 legs watching from ridgelines, vanishing when the light hits. They say the air changes. The birds go quiet. They say it smells like wet pine, ash, and something older. They call it the Dogman. They don't know he remembers their faces. They don't know. I'm watching. A blood-soaked page from Danny's journal floated in a stream below the ridge. On it, scrawled in fresh ink, they see you too. The forest keeps names. Like, comment. Whisper yours and before the howl comes again. It's quiet now. Most nights I sit beneath the same twisted pine near Ridge Spine Hollow listening, not to the wind, not to the owls, but to the breathing of the forest. Slow, rhythmic, ancient. The land remembers what men try to forget. I'm no longer Owen. Not fully, not anymore. What I am now is a vessel, a warning, a continuation. Sometimes hikers still pass through here. They laugh, take pictures, follow the trail markers like they're safe, but the woods don't care about maps, they care about blood, lineage, intention. And when the wind shifts, when they hear something not quite a howl, not quite a word, that's me, that's us. We don't hunt every night. Only when the land is angry. Only when the blood is remembered. They'll write this off as legend. Just another campfire story. But the Dogman was never just a tale. It was a truth too monstrous to speak aloud. And now that I've become part of it, so have you. If you've made it this far, the forest knows your name now. Leave a comment below. Whisper your truth, or offer a name to the shadows. Like this story if you've ever felt watched in the woods. Subscribe before the next full moon. And remember, the Dogman doesn't just stalk you. It waits for when you're ready to remember, and for those who hunger for more. Step deeper into the shadows with our ultimate werewolf horror playlist, linked in the description below. In the world of horror, the scariest things happen when you least expect them, and trust me, then you don't want to be left in the dark. Welcome to the darkness.